What's going on, people? It's your boy Marv, and this is the Nerds in the Hoodie. Nah, this is the Nerds in the Hoodie, y'all. That's right, hoodie season, full effect. The week has already began. I don't know where you at in the world right now, but if you're feeling the effects of autumn, it's here. I've been walking outside with a jacket on every day when I go to work. You know what I'm saying? Temperature has dipped. It's only been one day in the afternoon where it was like kind of warm, but just wasn't popping. So, I got to keep it full New York style, full hoodied up. No, I'm not going to keep it gooned out right now. I'm going to take the hoodie off, I'm going to take the hood off. But shout out to my guy. I know the thing is messed up. Let me fix it real quick. Shout out to my guy, Mako-san, a.k.a. Kwanja Nim, my man, Mr. Simmons, Mike Simmons. Got me this hoodie a while back when I used to go to this kickboxing class. I appreciate you for supporting the pod, sir. Supporting Nerds in the Hood. Support that man, too. Check him out. Really good dude. Does his thing. Incredible martial artist. Incredible legend. Incredible sensei. It's my guy. Anyway. Going from heroes to non-heroes. We actually, this is not even the way I really wanted to start the episode, but I was just compelled by what I had on. But anyway, also, I'm just like running on fumes right now. Forgive me. I spent the last 6.5 hours watching the Vince McMahon documentary. I think it's called Vince McMahon or McMahon, whatever. Either way, I just watched the whole documentary on Netflix because I just was like intrigued because I thought I had a lot of different thoughts, right? So that's why I wanted to talk about it. That's why I wanted to do this this episode. I had a lot of different thoughts about it, a lot of different viewpoints that I thought going into said program. And Netflix decided to make this documentary. I wanted to, well, not decided to make it, decided to release it. I just wanted to see it and see what they was going to talk about. Was it going to be anything different? Was it going to be anything untold, new information that we never heard before, whether you're a fan of WWE or not? And that answer, folks, before I give you the answer, remember, spoilers ahead if you really, really care about spoilers. It's a documentary, so not really much to say in terms of spoilers, but just in case, spoilers ahead. That answer is no. It didn't really change how we viewed this man. It didn't really change what we already knew about this man. It told a few things that you might not have known about his childhood, his relationship with his family, his parents, and his relationship with his kids, and how he basically helped his daughter find her eventual husband, like stuff like that. Like, cool, all right, made him look like a good dude, whatever. Not mad at that. However, my whole thing was like, I don't know, I guess because of the recent news that came out about him with the allegations and everything that was going on in his life right now, I thought they was going to press more on that precipice as opposed to like, let's keep rehashing old news stories that happened already. So basically, in each part of this 6-part documentary, what they decide to do is basically talk to you about how he got WWE, or back then WWF, how he basically built it, like made it bigger than what his dad made it, because his dad basically gave him the business and his dad passed away and now he ran the business. So it talks about how he basically got the business, how he blew the business up, the stars he helped grow along the way, how he helped it become mainstream in the 80s and 90s up until this very minute, and more. And then it tells you the other dealings that he had to go with along the way, like the steroid trial he had to endure, and Chris Benoit's death, and other deaths of other wrestlers, and the backstage politics that was going on, and the other sexual allegations that was going on with actual other wrestlers. So they tell you these things, but the thing about it is, if you're a wrestling fan, when you see a documentary like this, you already know, because they replay these things all the time. Every single time, there's a lot of this stuff that's already said, whether you see it on YouTube or you see it on some type of streaming service, you already know. Or even if you hear it on a podcast, you already heard these things before. Most of this, like, let me remind y'all this. WWE has gone through several streaming services. They had their own streaming service, the WWE Network. Then they jumped over to Peacock and took their whole library with them when the WWE Network was not working as well as it should have, and got a massive pay upgrade for that. And then now they're about to jump to Netflix next year. You see what I'm saying? Like their libraries got jumped to different things over time, and each time there's some documentary that tells you how Vince McMahon became as big as he became, how he beat WCW in the ratings, and how it is doing today. And then it tells you documentaries about other wrestlers too. This one was supposed to solely focus on Vince McMahon, but it didn't really do the greatest of jobs because it focused more on the fact of like, okay, this is how he beat his competition. This is how he did this. This is how he did this. We all know why we came here to watch this documentary. We didn't come here to see how he beat WCW back in the 90s and the 2000s. We didn't come here to see how he found Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and John Cena and Dave Bautista. We didn't see how he came to find those guys and help make them who they are today. We didn't want to see how he became old and was still doing the things he was doing in his 70s. We wanted to see how they was going to address the allegations. But what we have to remember when these documentaries come out is that this is what they're always going to do. I remember there was a documentary about a couple years ago about Bill Cosby. I think it was called There's Something About Bill Cosby, or We Have to Talk About Bill Cosby, or something like that. And it was made and produced by Kamal W. Bell. It wasn't a horrible documentary, but we all came there thinking that they was going to talk about like the stuff that he did, the stuff that was unspeakable, that the crazy actions that he did to the victims that he did it to. We did think that. Let's be real, America. Like, let's be real. We came here thinking that it was going to be some like crazy juicy stories that you never heard before, untold to the public, now told. And then when you see the documentary, they're just talking about how Bill Cosby became Bill Cosby, how he became big, how he got the power he got to think he can do the things he can do without getting caught. And then they just address how he got caught, but they only addressed it for like a small fraction of the documentary. So then you're kind of sitting there like, oh, I didn't come here for this, but now we're here. Quiet on Set did the same thing, but they kind of emphasized a little bit more. They came with what we wanted to hear. Like, things was happening, and we never knew this behind the scenes. Did we really want to hear it? I don't know, because it kind of killed our childhood at the end of the day. But not so much that we wouldn't want to go back and watch an old episode of all that, maybe. So what I'm saying by that is that this documentary did something that WWE fans are used to already, which was just rehashing old stories. We knew about everything that was on this documentary from episodes 1 to 5. We knew about everything from episodes 1 to 5. I am telling you. There is not a single WWE fan that cannot sit there and tell you what happened next after episode 2. They knew, oh, okay, this is when Hogan does this. This is the Montreal Screwjob. This is when the Attitude Era comes. This is when Stone Cold Steve Austin becomes a legend. We knew all of this stuff. So I don't think we needed a 6-episode documentary series about his rise from the 80s until his resignation in 2023. We didn't need all of that. Also, a lot of the interviews were pulled from old, like 2021, 2022, because this was supposed to be a documentary that was supposed to happen like years ago, but because of the allegations, they had to push it back and then add some extra footage of the allegation situation. And even then, they kind of just like touched on it a little just to tell you like, oh yeah, this happened during the allegations. But y'all good on that, that's it. I'm not going to say I didn't like this documentary. I'm just going to say this is not what I came here for. If you're a WWE fan, this ain't what you came here for. Do not spend your time watching all 6 episodes. Just go to episode 6, see what they say about the investigation, the allegations, and keep it moving. They kind of tell a little bit of new information, like the fact that he got sued by some of his superstars. One superstar in particular, Christopher Nowinski, who I always used to laugh at back in the day. I was like, he was one of those wrestlers that you was like, man, he kind of trash. You know what I'm saying? But he grew up to basically start a whole foundation designed to minimize the amount of CTE situations with concussions and stuff like that in all sports. And Vince McMahon was one of the few people willing to help this man. So those things was kind of like, all right, that's kind of cool. They tried to paint this nice light on Vince McMahon, and it didn't really work. But at the end of the day, a lot of the hypeness of wanting to see the documentary comes from the fact that a lot of people spoke on it before the documentary came out. Vince McMahon, about 1 or 2 days prior to the documentary coming out, wrote a whole letter basically saying that Netflix duped him, they hustled him, and they made this documentary to make it seem like he was a bad person. And it was like, no, this documentary didn't need to do that. It just showed your ups and your downs. It showed that you blurred the lines between the character Mr. McMahon that we saw in wrestling and the real life Mr. McMahon that was in the front office handling calls and taking meetings and stuff like that. It was like you found a way to blur those lines, and it made you do some things that was wild and for respect, allegedly. So if that is the case, then we can't blame a documentary. We just gotta say, yo, this was you, fam. This is what it is. But I will say this one other thing. This was not really so much of a win for him. It wasn't a win for WWE fans. It wasn't really a win for everybody. But what it did do was a smart move by Netflix. If you are new to wrestling and you want to try to get in on it now, whether you're a young adult, even a kid, or an older person, this helps in the sense that you got a brief up to speed, a very brief up to speed kind of Cliff Notes ramp up about what WWE went through in the past like decades, right? It was basically like an anime. When an anime has a certain amount of episodes, sometimes they like to do what we call a comp film. A comp film is basically a compilation of episodes comprised into 1 to 2 hours. Oh, slam like that, and then you just got your movie. And they expect you to know pretty much as you can know within those 2 hours. Like, it crams up and tells you all the important information, the fights that happen, all of those things. So by the end of it, you have a better idea of like a full amount of the whole episode. So this documentary kind of did that for new watchers of wrestling, new people who are new to wrestling. People who say like, man, what's all the hype about? Why is everybody so hype? Because now wrestling is bigger than it was before. Back in the 80s, you saw Hulk Hogan pulling up in movies like Rocky 3 and stuff like that, him starring in his own movie. You've seen celebrities like Mr. T and Mike Tyson, Cyndi Lauper all coming through. Now, in today's world, celebrities just be sitting in a crowd enjoying a WWE event. Actors, singers, athletes, they just be in the crowd having themselves a good time. And it's more and more evident. They are guest starring on TV shows. Some of them have their own TV shows. A lot of them transition to movies and are doing a good job. So they are everywhere and anywhere, and we are cooler for it. And now Netflix has the rights to stream Monday Night Raw in its entirety starting next year. USA is going to have SmackDown. The CW is going to have NXT. So they're all going to have new homes by next year. And because of that, if you're a Netflix person, now Raw is going to be streamed worldwide at all times. So now, if I don't know nothing about wrestling, this is my intro to WWE. The ups and the downs, the battles, the wars, all that stuff rolled into 6 hours. So that's why I'm like kind of upset, because I'm like, I sat here for 6 hours. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. I am tired, but I still wanted to make this video for you good people at Nerds in the Hood. And this hoodie is itching a brother. God damn. Anyway, let me finish this up before I scratch myself to death. So I'm just saying that I'm not saying we should have had 6 episodes about his allegations and how he's trying to get out of them and what the girl said to him, because those would be 6 very dark episodes. But you could have at least shed a little light on it, because the situation was so dark and dire that at the end of it, they couldn't even get Vince McMahon to talk about the allegations. I'm assuming for legal reasons, but they couldn't even get him to talk about the allegations. So he didn't even appear in most of the final episode. Towards the end, he was gone. They was like, yo, once they got to present day with him resigning from the company and all this other stuff, it was basically over for the whole documentary. But he bounced. He refused to answer any more questions in terms of that, because he knew it was going to get there. He knew it was going to get crazy. And you find out that most of these allegations started from way back in like the 80s. So it was like it was catching up to you, man. The other thing that I thought was kind of funny in the documentary, which I will say, is Shane McMahon tried to talk him into buying the UFC. So Vince McMahon would have owned WWE, ECW, WCW, and UFC, which would have been crazy. But he told Shane, "Nah, we good. We don't need that over there. I don't feel like that meshes with what we trying to do over here." So he dubbed the sale. Flash forward years later, now this marketing group known as TKO has acquired WWE. And who are they partnered with? UFC. So it's almost as if UFC just came back and bought them, even though it's not fully what happened, but it's almost as if it's what happened. But imagine if years ago Vince McMahon pulled the trigger and said, let's do it, and acquired UFC. Would have been crazy. We would have had a lot of different back and forth merges. You know what I'm saying? Ronda Rousey probably would have been here even earlier. Conor probably would have been a wrestler. Who knows? But it would have been crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So I'm just gonna say, like, when it comes to rating this, I'm gonna say it's alright. I'm just gonna jump right out and say it. I know we usually have our rating system, which is valid, which means it's good. It's alright, which means it's okay. And nah, this ain't it because it's whack. But in this case, it's all right. It's all right. It's what we grown to see already. It's another bit of history that you're just seeing on another streaming service, but they're adding another chapter to the book of Vince McMahon, which is basically these unfortunate allegations that have befallen for him. It's unfortunate for him. But if these allegations are true, woo, it's quiet. It is quiet. We will probably never hear from this man again. And he had to step down from WWE because we didn't want that to kill the rise that the WWE took after he decided to take a step back. And now we are in the Triple H era, which is about to be the Netflix era, where you see a lot of things you didn't get to see before Vince McMahon stepped down. You see a lot more people of color wrestling, getting titles. You see a lot of people that are getting opportunities that probably wouldn't have got it years ago. Women are way more respectful and being respected is what I mean to say. They're being respected way more in this current era of wrestling than they were before. Yeah, their matches still for some reason are whack, but not all of them. Back in the day, it was like you didn't watch the match. What'd you want to watch? It was a bra and panties match. It was them wrestling in pudding or water or whatever, right? And that's what we were like duped into believing was fire. And then we realized years later, like, no, this is fire. Two women just giving it their all, just like the men are doing, fighting for a belt, fighting for a win, whatever the case may be. And it came out to good results. Now we get better characters out of them. We're getting better characters and a better vibe. And there's women that these younger generation of women can look up to and say, I want to be the next Bianca Belair or Chelsea Green or Piper Niven or whoever, good or bad. And that's a dope feeling. You know what I'm saying? That is a dope feeling that a kid could say, now I want to be the next Rhea Ripley. Back in the day, you could say I wanted to be the next Lita, Trish Stratus, Mickey James, and a few others, but you couldn't say everybody. You couldn't say everybody. So this is a dope time to be a wrestling fan. And the documentary tried to kind of remind you of like, hey, you've watched it this far, you could keep watching it if you gave up. But again, we came here for the allegations. I didn't come to watch a Bill Cosby documentary to be reminded that the Bill Cosby Show was one of the best sitcoms of all time. I came here to see, like, how do we get here? How did we get to these allegations, right? When you see a movie and the character goes, you're probably wondering how I got here. Or, yep, that's me. Could have been avoided if I did this. What is the first thing you think? Oh, man, I want to see how this person got there. How did the character get there? So it's the same way. I wanted to see how did we got here. And they kind of did it, but they took the roundabout way. They went through blocks that we know is usually filled with traffic that we didn't need to get into. And then when they got there, we were just like, now I got to go home. It took this long. I got to go home now. So, watch it if you want to watch it. If you don't know the history of what Vince McMahon went through in the WWE and stuff like that, then yeah, you get an in-depth look. And please go ahead, check it out. It's not horrible. But if you are a fan, you already know most of these things that happen. You know how they happen. They even use the fact of like storylines that didn't really even need to be, but it was to show like how he was blurring the lines. So watch it if you want. But if you're a wrestling fan, just skip to like episode 5 or 6. It'll pretty much just get you where you want to be. If you're not, watch the full thing. You'll enjoy it. You'll learn some things out of it too. And you'll see what type of man he truly, truly was. I could say more, but I'd rather let the documentary do the talking. So it's on Netflix now. Check it out. It's called McMahon. It's about Mr. Vince McMahon, the ruthless guy who ended up portraying that way on and off camera, and unfortunately has a allegedly shady backstory, an allegedly shady hidden secret that got uncovered, and now we know that he might be a monster, might not be a good person. And I keep saying allegedly because I don't know what the truth is, and I don't want to get into no situations. I don't want no smoke with nobody. Anyway, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to go get some sleep because that 6-hour documentary drained me. I felt like I was at WrestleMania 35 all over again. If you know, you know, because that was just as long as this, maybe longer. In the meantime, in between time, check the link tree in my description. Make sure you follow Nerds in the Hood on all social media using that link tree. And we will be back with another video on another time, in another place known as Nerds in the Hood. Peace.